Good. I think we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you all for coming. So welcome to dev.talk. That's how it's pronounced, dev.talk, not dev.talk, which is what I keep calling it, even though I came up with the name. So that was a bad name, wasn't it? So I'm Mark Oliver. I'm the organizer and your host for tonight. And it's great to see you all here. We did have a sold out event and we've had a few dropouts since that point. And we've had a very busy waiting list. I know some of you have been on that, so thank you for sticking with us. And we've got hopefully some interesting talks tonight. So I've got a few things I need to go through first, just some important things, and then we can get started. I've got a clicker, which is my favourite tool ever. So I will be clicking lots, and it's quite loud as well, so you have to put up with that. So we've done the arrival networking, we're doing the welcome and housekeeping now. It's not going to be 10 minutes, I'm not going to be talking that long. And then we've got 2 lightning talks, followed by some refreshments. Then we'll have a slightly longer session for that, and then we can all say goodbye, and there'll be, or we can all choose to meet up here next January. So we have some supporters tonight of dev.talk, and the first one is Reconnect, as Sharon's given a giant banner here for us. And see me and Sharon, the Reconnect crew. Let's go with crew, the Reconnect crew. So a local conference for tech people, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. There's also the YouTube channel, Just Pick One UK, which is providing the mics, which hopefully are working, and the camera by that lovely lady over there, which I can say because that's my wife. And most importantly of all, the Institute of Directors, who have allowed us this space tonight. And they've provided a whole bunch of drinks and food and help, and it's been amazing. So thank you both for that so far. And we'll you want to do the clapping? Okay, we'll do the clapping now. Yeah. So thank you all to the supporters. We will do all that again later, but thank you for the supporters. So who am I? I'm Mark Oliver. Hello, I think I've met you all by now. I'm a principal software engineer by day, dad and husband to one at night. Sometimes during the day as well. It depends whether he's around or not. I've been working in the industry for a long time now, 25 years, on lots of projects, lots of multi-million-pound projects and products, which kind of makes me a little bit of a dinosaur, some might think, especially when Chloe, one of our speakers who's going to be here, is just starting her career in this. So it does make me feel a bit like a dinosaur. And I'm the organizer of dev.talk. Yay! So check out my website. For those who have just migrated to Blue Sky, I'm on there too. And so dev.talk has now got a Blue Sky account as of about 2 hours ago. So come find me on there. I don't post very much, and I often post memes, so important stuff. So why am I here? Well, I'm here because of community. We live in an area here full of tech businesses. And in a recent article I wrote, I identified about 100 of them in the local area that are all producing software in some way or other, which means there's got to be at least 100 software engineers in the area, right? And hopefully 50 of them are already here. So probably we've got half the community in the room. But it does make me think there's probably actually hundreds, possibly thousands here in the local area. But where are they all? Do you know them all? I don't. I know some of them, and some of them I've met. But the problem is we don't really know our local community and peers. There is a lack of community in this area. And that's really what all this is about. So my childhood hero said this, Wilton Knight said this: one person can make a difference. And I decided to build up a community because of that. I couldn't find a community here locally, so I decided to take his quote and apply it to my life. And that's why we're all here tonight. So does anybody know who Wilton Knight is? No. Oh. Fine, the slightly older generation should. Okay, so Wilton Knight created some groundbreaking technology in 1981 that has kind of lived with me and inspired me for 4 decades, because I'm getting on a bit now. He is the creator of the Knight Industries 2000, Kit from the TV show Knight Rider. And it's genuinely true. I have been inspired by Wilton Knight. That's not made up. I do genuinely love this show. As my wife will attest, I've been watching it quite recently. But that's a car that can talk and drive itself. It's bulletproof and it's also self-aware. And 40 years later, we're on the cusp of having that technology. We have self-driving cars now. We have generative AI systems, speech-to-text, chatbots. All of these things together could be close to Kit, although I'm not sure the bulletproof nature might, but who knows. But we're not there yet. And it's people like us who will make it happen. I hope we do anyway. But as I said to my son's primary school class recently, Beyonce, because I'm cool and topical, Beyonce was wrong when she says that girls rule the world. Software engineers do. Because we do, right? Software engineers do. We rule the world. So why are you all here? Perhaps you want to be part of this community. I certainly hope so. I certainly hope that's why you're here. Perhaps you want to share with others. Perhaps you want to come stand here and talk. That'd be great if you do. Perhaps you want to learn something. Hopefully you'll learn something tonight. Not from me, obviously, from the three speakers we're going to have. Perhaps you're dragged to it, like I dragged my wife. Perhaps you come for some food. Sorry, that is literally all there is. There's no pizza coming. So the legendary Grace Hopper said this about our industry. She said, "To me, programming is more than an important practical art. It's also a gigantic undertaking in the foundations of knowledge." And she's basically saying that software development is an art and a science. And that we need to keep doing it by keep doing it, we need to mount these foundations of knowledge, which means basically we must keep learning. The things that I knew 25 years ago when I came into this industry are very different to the things I know now. So we have to keep learning. And that's why we're all here, I hope. So with that, let me introduce you to our speakers. First up is going to be Chloe, who's sat here at the front. You'll meet her in a moment, who's going to talk to us about breaking into the industry from a student's perspective. And then we'll have Jamie, who is on the end here, who's going to take us through designing microservices using the, how do you say that? REPR pattern.
Like the Grim Reaper.
Grim Reaper pattern, okay, which is pattern, clearly I don't know. And then after the break, we'll have Dan, who's looking very dapper in that outfit. Dan, where are you down there? I mean, that's such a great picture. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, when Dan was on ITV last month. So Dan, after the break, is going to tell us how to build secure and scalable cloud platforms. So with that, I hope exciting lineup. I'm excited to see it. I'm going to hand over to Chloe. So thank you very much, Chloe. Come on.
A few moments later.
Hello everyone, so amazing to see so many people. We see some familiar people and some new faces tonight. I'm Chloe. I'm going to be talking to you about getting into industry from a student's perspective. I've just finished a year of industry with JP Morgan. I was on a Java tax reporting team. We were migrating to AWS, so that was some exciting technology we were working on. And I'm now back in university at BU, just finishing my degree before I go back to JP Morgan. So I'm taking this chance just to talk to people about different mentoring opportunities and ways that students are getting into industry now. It might be different to how you entered industry yourself. So a little bit about my experience. So the way that I ended up at JP Morgan was JP Morgan sponsored a hackathon with Bournemouth University. Through this hackathon, if you won, you got to go do an insight day with the software engineers at JP Morgan in Bournemouth, which luckily I did. And through that experience, I got to go to the JP Morgan site and most importantly, see some of the code that they were producing on site. This, to me, was what made me want to work for JP Morgan, because before that, they were just kind of a bank to me as a student. And after seeing the code that they had, that made me think, wow, I'd love my code to look like that, basically. And that's why I wanted to head over there and work for them. So after that insight day, I then started making my skill set reflected what they want from me, basically. I started working on my Java. I started looking at some terraforming because I'd heard that was a trendy thing to do. And after doing that, I luckily got a placement with them for a year. That's an industry placement. I was a year and 3 months, actually. And a highlight of my year was probably the AWS end-to-end suite that I made. That was something that I architected for my team. It was new because we were migrating to AWS, and it was really exciting. I got to do the terraforming, which was a bugger to learn, I tell you. So this is an example of kind of what I saw during my Insight Day. He had some code similar to this that's on the screen, and I, as a student, was like, oh, that looks similar to the code that I'm making at the moment. Lots of ifs and fors and, you know, just nothing special, but it did the job. And in the session, throughout the hour, we worked as like a group programming exercises at refactoring code like this and making it something a bit more object orientated. You can see we've now gone from having like a list of integer to an object, and it's gone down from about 15 lines to 2 lines using different packages and some validation. So that really impressed me. If you as developers were maybe to do an insight with some students locally, I'd recommend something like that in your own preferred languages. This was really sort of a breakthrough as a student because I went in thinking like, oh, I know, you know, I can code. And I came out like, oh, I have so much to learn from these people. So can I get some initial hands up of anyone who did any of these kind of programs? Okay, that's quite, I mean, almost half, I'd say, so that's good. I've already spoken a little bit about Insight Days. I really recommend them. You don't have to be in person, it could be virtually. It's also a great way for a student to get to know your company and the values that the company represents. It's just a great insight into the code and just what you're creating, if it's maybe got a mission statement as well. Short-term placements, usually summer placements, and the long-term industry placement, that's what I did. For this one here, it's worth noting that the level that you're expecting the developer to come into, that's based on the company. For JP Morgan, they don't expect you to necessarily be an amazing developer. They expect you to have a great attitude and to want you to learn and to learn what they're going to put the resources for you. So they'll provide you with mentors and different resources and programs to go and learn. And they expect you to have rapid growth throughout the year and become just any other employee by the end. The graduate schemes, that's an interesting one because that is time frame for 2 years, and that is for people who are about to leave university or have they just left. And by restricting that talent pool, it means that people who have just exited university with their degree have a chance to get an industry job, and they're not competing with people like yourself with much more industry experience than them. It's a great way to get them into a job before exposing them to the rest of the world. So can I get some more hands up of people who have ever mentored students? Yeah? And I'm going to pick on some of you. So should we start with Mark? That's just an easy initial one. So could you show me some examples, tell me some examples of how you supported students that you were mentoring?
Oh, we'd have weekly check-ins, we'd go through their code together, we'd have fun together. So not in a weird way.
Yeah.
Make them really part of the team.
You can cut that out.
It's on video.
I'm so thankful I'm the one that's editing this video. Sorry, I'm not even in this video.
But exactly, as Mark gracefully said, you're doing some of the things on the screen here, like the one-to-ones and code reviews. Could I get one more volunteer, maybe? Anyone? Be brave. I saw loads of hands before.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you tell me something you've learned maybe from mentoring someone as the mentor?
One of the things I learned is how challenging they found a lot of like what I would take for granted, and perhaps after years in the industry you don't even realize that smaller steps are so important for them. So you would talk to them about something that is 10 steps away, but then you figure out, okay, well, I've got to break it down. I also learned a lot about really fresh enthusiasm because they look at the world and look at the tech industry as this like amazing place. I mean, it is, but I mean, they look at it from a
brand new energy.
Yes, that's it. So that was
so
fantastic.
excited. Completely. Thank you. That's really insightful. So people who didn't have their hands up, you probably have already done mentoring. It's just not under the official name. Probably just helping people on board under your program, or just some volunteering maybe in the community. But I think the formal mentoring is really great for like mutual benefit. You get to learn a lot about yourself and maybe your managerial style, stuff like that, how you teach, and getting to get that perspective from someone just starting. And of course, the mentee also learns so much from you. I wanted to give some examples of what I've learned from my mentor when I was in JP Morgan, and like the technical way that he supported me. So he provided me with a lot of like books and resources. He taught me all about design patterns, which was just, you know, he could list off a load of resources and I went and learned them. So that was great. He produced for me a side project, which was basically some code similar to what I showed you at the beginning. It was completely unreadable. I had no tests. It didn't seem to do a lot. And it was my goal to create some unit tests to prove what it was doing. Once I'd done that, then I refactored it to be fully object orientated and to actually look nice and run really well. So that's an example. He also did some informal kind of mentoring. So he had a lunch and learn club, and that was during the lunch times. We would all eat together and do a group programming exercise. Again, it was Java, but that was just what I kind of gravitated to. But there was other people there who didn't do Java in their day-to-day, and we'd sit and learn the kind of better practices whilst coding like Connect 4. It was something that was aside from the work, but it was a great way to start learning and learn from each other's teams as well. So on the board are some local companies that, as Mark was saying earlier, I've seen that have been producing software in some kind. There are more, but this is the snippet that I went with to save me hours of work. And I wanted to just do some research on how many of them are publicly promoting some kind of student opportunity. And these are the results I came back with, which were quite shocking. So to reinforce, this is the publicly published opportunities. Some of these companies I know do have student opportunities, but they're specific to Bournemouth University. It's maybe they've got in by just knowing someone and networking, and it's not on their website or on their official LinkedIn. So looking at this, I think we can do much better as a community. When you're a student and you're looking for these kind of roles so you can get into industry, some really big names are in the space, lots of banks, lots of big companies in London, and we have such a great community in Bournemouth. So it'd be great to have the local university, not just Bournemouth, there's the arts and there's one in Poole as well. If we could have some of the student talent there in our student roles. I think it's also important to have a static kind of application on a website, because like I said with JP Morgan, I didn't really like Java and getting it through there. I really liked the company and the values that the company represented. So I went and learnt Java and the skill set to get into the company based on that. So I think it's quite important that we have something static, because I looked on the company pages and they either didn't have a early careers job portal, maybe they had rolling applications where there wasn't always a study application. You could go back and look at the skills that they're applying to. I think that would really improve if you do have if you're in charge of a company's website. So I'm going to end on this, and I have stolen the motto from a graduate skill program. It's to live your values and not laminate them. And what that really is just saying is to actually put actions towards the value of your company. If your company is saying that they're going to invest in young talent and they have great integrity, respect, diversity, then are you actually putting actions towards that? Or is that wall art that's in your office, you know? And there's some examples here of how you might start working towards that as a developer. That is me. Has anyone got any further questions? Yes.
You said about static applications. I didn't quite understand what that meant in that, because I just haven't like interacted with the student kind of graduate schemes before. So could you just kind of elaborate a bit more what that means?
Of course, yeah. So I saw a few local companies that didn't have a job portal, but they might have a blog post maybe about a senior position, or they had a job portal and it said no applications at the moment. And it was just they were posting when applications were needed. And for a student, like I said, if you're trying to build your skill set around a company, you would like to see what are they hiring for? Do they even have student positions? Yeah, because again, a lot of the local companies do sometimes take in an internal too. So it'd be nice to have that as something you could reach out to. Other universities as well might come to your company, and that's great because you can diversify the thinking of your talent pool. Because in Bournemouth University, under software engineering, you're going to get one, education, one degree that they've learned. If you diversify out, then you'll get a much more better talent pool. Yeah. Anyone else?
Thanks for clarifying that. That's really interesting, and I'll feed that back. I just wanted to mention one other thing that Units Traffic has done, which isn't a new thing, which is we've put some online work experience on a platform called SpringPod. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there's all sorts of companies on there, and it gives people a chance to just sort of go and do things online that gives them an idea of the companies and the roles. And I think it's actually a really important thing to be doing, because I think particularly in terms of diversity and equity, if you are not like everybody else, you might well be brave enough to do something like that when you're not perhaps brave enough to apply for something in person. So I really think that's a really good thing we've done to put on the spring.
And that's not actually, I didn't count that towards my thing, and that is because again, the source was the website and the LinkedIn. There is some portals like Bright Network or the student placement, and there are some opportunities through there. But that's sort of coming outside of the context of your company. If I was to really like your company and look on your website and I didn't see that, then it's kind of lost to us. So even just like a link would be amazing, For the mentoring, I've put a link. You might have been wondering what that was. That was to the Pragmatics blog on mentoring, sort of from your guys' perspective as the experienced developers. And there's some really good points in there on how you're going to get a lot from mentoring and different ways you can mentor, either unofficially or officially. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Chloe. That was very good.
Right.
Hey, that was great. Thanks.
Next up, we've got Jamie, who's going to tell us about this REPR pattern. I now know you.
So, good evening. My name is Jamie. I'm a software architect for GraphNet Health. Whilst I live in Bournemouth, the company I work for is based in Milton Keynes. That's probably why I don't recognise pretty much anyone here. So, I've kind of mentioned, Mark's kind of mentioned this, REPR over MVC. Kind of a display issue. Why? Well, that kind of goes over anyway. So, it's got a very brief agenda. I'm not going to go through it word by word because most of us are adults and I hope we can read. So I'm going to explain who I am, what I do, why .NET developers typically use MVC, what the REPR pattern is, any advantages, and I've got a small code sample at the end. So I said I'm a software architect, been at GraphNet Health for the last 3.5 years. Before that, .NET developer for System C, another healthcare company. I seem to be stuck in that world. And I was a senior developer there. I've done a lot of mentoring as Chloe's kind of on it. And worked with some front-end technologies as well, but primarily focusing on .NET, APIs, and kind of like best practices, how we should do things. Not always right, as we always learn. But so why do we use MVC? Now, this was kind of spawned from a discussion with someone called Ardadis, who quite a few of the .NET community probably have heard of. We use MVC because it's pretty much all we're told to use. You open up Visual Studio, you create a new web API, controllers are there, you go, great, I'll use that. You can now use minimal APIs. I think they came out about 4 years ago now, give or take. And people will go, well, they're great, but only use them for small projects. So what does REPR kind of offer? It kind of changes instead of going with MVC, model view controller, which then would often shift to a paradigm of model view, view model, and you've still got the controller in there somewhere. The idea is that you better align with the solid principles and go, I have a request object going to an endpoint and returning a single response, following the singularity principle. Everything for that endpoint is contained within that endpoint. So you don't talk to anything else per se. The only external dependency should be your database or item of choice. So as a kind of hint, I'm just going through this, I will slow down. We are better aligned to solid principles, so everything is all under that umbrella. That's just using create a user. So it'd be a post with the definition of that contract, that command, that handler, going to the service and the database. The idea is that it will better structure the code, allowing developers to maintain, develop, and work probably on more endpoints at one time. I'm sure we've all come across Git merge issues, which we spent most of our day trying to work out why that file won't merge with that file, and in the end, you just end up having to rebase everything. So there's a package called Fast Endpoints, which is kind of like a wrapper around Minimal API, allowing all the functionality of MVC, Swagger support, but with performance akin to minimal APIs. So I've been doing this actually at my job recently. We get a lot of data in from NHS systems, from GP systems, and we've found that performance using the REPR pattern with no code tweaks, just go to this endpoint instead of this controller, is about 200% better. I've actually only done this today, so this is we've made a few tweaks to the code using the mediator pattern, and we found about 400% improvement. So I do have a sample. I've got the GitHub link here as well, which I did send to Mark. So I thought you have to talk this way, but so I've created a very basic controller. A lot of the stuff I do, I try to use the clean architecture pattern. It's kind of like a mix and match of a few people in Microsoft and Microsoft supporters. So I've created a very simple API for this, one using MVC, one using REPR. So with the controller for Web API, it's all here, all in one. I've really slimmed this down for the speed of a demo. And with REPR, whilst it seems like there's a lot more there, so if I go create dev speaker, I've specified that this is my endpoint. It takes in a request, and that's the response that it returns. You define the route that it goes in. I've just done this onto a group, so it's everything on the dev speaker. You can secure these as you would with any API by allowed anonymous access for the sake of a demo. And I'm allowed mediator to do all the sending. So that everything else is going to follow exactly the same pattern as for each one. So using the create, I have a very simple command and a handler using the mediator pattern. And my infrastructure project is the only external dependency. So if we were to go, great, SQL is working great, but we want to use a NoSQL database, the only changes for all of this would be in the infrastructure project. So it gives a nice green-blue deployment pattern as well. What this also has the benefit of is full Swagger support. With the release of .NET 9 as of last week, Swagger support isn't native to .NET anymore. It's still available via NSWAG and other NuGet packages. But Fast Endpoints has it supported in .NET 9 and beyond. Go to the web package. And that is enabled by just a simple NuGet package and one line of code. And then Spark support is as you'd always get with any default Microsoft Web API. Now if I've set this up right, both of them should open at the same time. I tried to do this for my kids' bedtime last night and they fell asleep straight away.
I'm going to try that one.
Patent pending. So both routes are in the Swagger. Some beautiful logging if people really like that kind of thing as well. I've hard coded some entries in there so there'll be no network dependencies. Gives me back a dev speaker ID and that one. If I was to get that dev ID, it's going to return my name for the that's showing the full flow of the app using REPR. And I think I've applied exactly the same principles in MVC, but to show comparison. And that's the .NET flow, and that's the MVC flow, and that's the REPR flow. Both pretty much identical to each other, but this will use less memory and give you performance akin to minimal APIs with the full Swagger support by default, and all your response codes you want to add, all the customization that you get with MVC, you get with Fast Endpoints using the REPR pattern. Now, see if there's any questions.
Yeah, you mentioned it being 200% more performance.
Yeah.
Is that just like routing?
Yeah, it's mainly due to the middleware and the piping that Fast Endpoints uses. Because it's based on minimal APIs, so you're pretty much stripping back most of the middleware.
Sure. And so when you strip back, so it's been a while since I've done .NET development in like a big system. So from my memory of the way the middleware works is it's kind of a bit like an onion. Like you have like a layer that then passes on the request to another layer and whatever. Is it that bit you're kind of stripping?
Yeah, you're essentially just going, I only want to do that. You're kind of adding in the layers that you want. So if you want to add authorization via JWT tokens or via header from API management, that's all it will do. You're telling it exactly what to build and how to build it.
So you don't end up with, so kind of like the drawback is being able to use like decorators to like say this controller can only be accessed by people that are authenticated or whatever. That would be like a drawback is you don't end up with any of that pattern, being able to use any of those sorts of patterns.
No, you can still do all that with with Fast Endpoints, straight minimal APIs.
That's interesting. Thanks, dude.
No worries. Another question?
It's not really a question, but more what you were saying there before, the MVC stuff, the traditional stuff, the pipeline's kind of already defined, but with using minimal APIs, which is what this is based on, you get a lot more control over that pipeline and you can inject and craft that pipeline a bit more. So you can cut out all of that stuff, as you said, the many layers of the onion, you can pick and choose the bits and make it as thin as possible. So that's probably where a bunch of the suite comes from between the two.
Essentially is when we really got down into it, that was essentially where it came from. And all we needed to add was the authentication. And once we had that, we were flying. And for comparison, we stripped everything back. We took away all the caching, so that was not into play. Took away all the logging, so you didn't get all that noise. It was literally, this is the call, this is the response. What's the difference in performance?
So what is the drawback?
We haven't seen any yet. But this is new to our development team, unfortunately, as well. That is probably the drawback, that the REPR pattern is still relatively new because minimal APIs are still relatively new in the .NET world. So more and more features become available to fast endpoints, and the more people will use it. I mean, like I say, most .NET developers, if you ask them what do they use, they will say MVC, because you open Visual Studio, click new Web API, that's what you get.
Yeah. As well, I was taught, there's a pattern I was taught at uni as well, like 15 years ago, whatever it was, 20 years ago.
And when you break MVC down, you've got this one big controller to current all the rings to control it all. Yet, is it talking to anything? It's this. Normally, you've got one service. Let's just call it users, and a user service which is doing some validation, and then you've got a repository which is calling your database or whatever you want to do with it, and then you've got some caching in there as well. And you're adding all those bits which add more and more noise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I've never even heard of REPR before, so yeah.
I hadn't. I was at a .NET conference a couple of years ago, and I was talking to our Darius, and we exchanged contact details, and he was saying that he had his own package called API Endpoints, and he's since changed that to use fast endpoints. And his clean architecture template, which got upgraded to .NET 9 last week, is now primarily using fast endpoints.
Is fast endpoints first party from Microsoft?
Not yet.
Right.
It's because the problem is our Darius, as anyone who knows .NET, he will use what he wants to use. And Microsoft eventually go, oh, that's great, we'll actually buy that. So probably in the next coming months, because I know that the person who developed fast endpoints is looking for sponsorship. So it'll probably be in .NET 10 that the minimal APIs becomes more of a fast endpoint style.
Right.
Do you need the fast endpoints package in order to do the REPR back?
No, you could do it without it. Okay. But I've just found it makes it a lot easier. There is a blogger called Milan Jovanovic, I've probably got his surname completely wrong, who uses minimal APIs but has a wrapper for itself using a very similar approach, and that will then just build his whole API based on that.
So how does this differ from CQRS, or are we talking the same thing?
It's kind of the same thing. It just CQRS is more of a pattern. Whilst with Azure SQL you do have typically in hyperscale a read-only replica of your database, no one actually uses it. But use that pattern to help break up all your queries and commands, because if you've got a dev team working on API rapidly, they don't have to worry about each other per se.
Sure.
The only thing they have to perhaps worry about is one method in a infrastructure project. The rest of the time they can create their own models, because the models will vary, and most times if you're doing an add to the most models, you haven't got an ID, so they can have their own model for that. You can obviously create abstractions as to this is your base model, and then these are the fields that you might add on to at the end. But typically it's all based on the ID for updates or for deletes. But for any additions, you've got a blank model, so you can go, this is what I'm taking in. And for search, it's a different whole ball game where you've got, these are the fields I want to search on. Obviously, healthcare, you're searching on date of birth, or you're searching for a range of instance in the date range. So that's not a field in your post model, that's a field in your search model.
One last question then. How, from me anyway, how did you measure the 200% performance difference?
I didn't really. I literally went, okay, I'm going to rip out logging, rip out all the noise. So I've just got MVC going, I've hit a route, this is the ID, and this is the search criteria, this is my payload, ensuring that the payload being returned in both was identical. so that it was like for like. Again, ripped out all the logging, put into this API, and turned off all the caching, so there's no way you can go, well, that's being cached. Used a tool called K6. It's a tool to allow for automated testing. We use like ramp up number of users, number of virtual, I can't remember the exact term. I'll send you over to LinkedIn though, it just allowed me to get more ramp up the number of users, and it's typically about 200%. It might be like 190 sometimes, 210 other times. But we've done a few more tweaks to move to the CQRS pattern and a few other things over there with the architecture team last few weeks, and it's getting more to like 400%.
Why don't you need logging?
We do need logging, but I just turned it all off for the sake.
It's not really a very fair comparison.
No, I turned it, both of them had no logging. So when I put the logging back in, the results were still very similar.
Any other questions? No? Great. Thank you very much, Jamie.
That was great!
Regulations on heliports are fairly lax at the moment. From what we've heard on Vertiport, they're pretty stringent, especially over in Dubai. So being able to understand why we're doing it this way is incredibly important. And then the who are we actually building this for? And that for us started off as an internal thing that we would just use. It then became, well, actually some of the operators like Joby are going to want to start to use pieces of it. And then it became, well, actually, no, there's a market there for us to start selling pieces of it. And each of those iterations have meant, well, we've got to shift how we do things slightly. You know, it's now not on a closed private network with SD-WANs from the cloud out to the satellite sites. I'm speaking your terminology, into the spokes from the hub. Instead, it's a SaaS product that we can allow sign-ups to. They've got to be approved. But for anyone to any of the Vertiport OEMs, so Joby or Volocopter, can then sign up and start using our software. And that was a real shift for us to stop just going on what we think as a team without talking about it, what we think we're building, and to sit down and formalise what are we doing and why, and who is this really going to be used by. And that became really important in building out why, sort of exactly what we're doing. The next one sort of fills into that. Do I need it now? And as technologists, although I sound more like a marketer right now, we all like the shiny things. We all like the new software packages, REPR. That sounded really interesting. That's a shiny thing, and why should we move to it? Why should we stop doing MVC and go to it? And I think Jamie gave a really good sort of, it was for the performance reasons and bits like that around it. And this is a question that we all need to be doing as we're taking on the new technology, is thinking to ourselves, is it actually necessary now? And for Vertiports, for me, that is it needed for day one operations? Is this needed when we start flying at the start of January? Do we need the RMSS system? Do we need RMSS to have this functionality? And starting to ask those questions will allow you to start prioritizing exactly what you're doing. And so the example I've given here is probably less relevant to this room, which is around CCTV, which is one of the things that seems to have fallen into my lap as a responsibility now. But so you've got a site with CCTV already in there. Why would you change those cameras? What are they going to benefit you? You found a nice shiny new camera. It's got a nice sleek Apple style body that everyone seems to like. But why would you swap it over? And the old one's doing the job. Well, the new one has AI. It's able to do license plate recognition. It's able to do all of these other things. But do you actually need them? You know, if it's a camera in here, does it matter if it can do license plate recognition? And it's starting to ask those questions of yourself will allow you to build that premise and work out, well, this isn't needed now, but 2 years down the line, when we've got a car park, well, there's a car park linked to that Vertiport, but a car park linked to the Vertiport, and we're starting to do that, we will need that piece of technology. And this Okay, yeah, I think this was one of Lucy's rules that she used to drill into us back when she was my leader. She had a list of about 100 of them.
No, it's not mine. Keep it simple, stupid is always good.
But yeah, as a technologist, I automatically go for one of the more complicated solutions whenever I see a problem. It's, yeah, you go down the route of, so you've got a web UI, a web API and a database, and your web UI is getting slow response times in the web UI. Well, I would immediately start going down a complicated route of thinking, well, is the web API doing too much? You know, is the database in the right way? All of these other bits before I start to look at the simple side of it, are the indexes in the correct state and bits like that. And I think as a technologist, we need to really get back to going for the most simple solution and not trying to, well, the light's not working, I'm going to change the bulb first and then I'm going to go check the electric. Has anyone checked the light switch on the wall? And it's that style of it that I think, for me and the engineers I lead, I sort of try to drill back into them that go for the most basic solution first, get it working, and then from there, if that doesn't solve whatever we're trying to solve, yeah, let's look at re-architecting it, let's look at a new solution, but let's keep it basic to start with. Yeah, that is my 4 lessons of what I've learned over the past 2 years of leading the team. But yeah, I think I'll hand it back over to Mark. Before I do, I'd like to thank Mark for putting this together. I think it's something that's been very much needed since COVID. We sort of lost all of these, and thank you, Mark.
Does anybody have any questions for Dan?
Yeah, you've got questions there.
So, is there anything, or what was the aspect that at the start, at the concept, where you guys were at the showroom, that further down the line was actually went completely way south than what you guys were expecting then?
I think for that, the major thing that sort of shifted for us was the need for certain parts of what we're building. We believe that all of the OEMs would definitely want to book using an online system, and none of them would want to stick with pen and paper. That's not the case, and certain key partners have insisted on it going down the route of, well, I think one of them actually suggested, well, we'll send you a WhatsApp message every morning with what flights we want to land. That's the major bit for us that sort of sent us back a bit, is that not everyone's going to agree to use the technology we're building. It's a very new industry. Everyone in that industry is going to have their own thought of how things are going to be built, and they're not always going to align with what we see. Yep.
From all the tests you guys did you ever try out using blockchain? Because I feel like it solves some of the issues here.
We didn't look into using blockchain for it, no. I think that's something that maybe down the line we'll look into.
Does the term cloud get confusing?
Especially if you're on the radio to a pilot and I say the cloud system's down, and they're like, no, I can see it.
I just have an image of air travel being like super highly regulated.
It is.
And so how does that work with a POC? Or you?
So our POCs are all virtual at that point. So in terms of sort of POCing the software behind it, we don't have to do that with any live flights. There's no live flights for eVTOLs happening. There's test flights. We've got a company down in Bristol, Vertical, who are doing some quite cool test flights there. But yeah, at the moment, it's virtual networks for that. We've got the actual buildings that we can go through and test integrations to speed gates and how the FIDs are being shown and all of those sorts of integrations and how the ops room will work. But that is all virtual at that point. There's no aircraft for us to play with. Although we do have a drone side of the business, so maybe we'll test it with drones at some point.
So it sounds hard to break stuff if it's someone's actually flying it.
Yeah, no.
How closely do you have to integrate with air traffic control systems?
So at the moment for Dubai, it will be closed corridors, so we don't have to integrate with the air traffic control. For the tests we're doing in the UK, we're integrating with NAT, and they will basically tell us the flights. They'll sit in between us and the OEMs, and they will tell us the flights come in. So the flights will be booked with NAT. NAT will then tell us that these flights are coming in. So yeah, we've got to have some integration with the air traffic control.
How tell you about the other events in the local area. Tectonic, which that's Dan's over there, right? Dan, pardon Dan. That's Dan's event, which happened last week. Really interesting talk about post-quantum cryptography, which was really interesting and not at all scary. There's Bournemouth 2600, which is what do they do it? Cybersecurity.
Yeah.
So some maybe here. They've got an event next week, I believe, where they're doing some fun things for Christmas. The other ones are on there are existing. Some of them I'm not 100% sure are running. OWASP is definitely running. They're combined with Bournemouth 2600 next week. Women in Tech Dorset are active, and we.
Apart from when it snows.
Sorry?
Apart from when it snows.
Apart from when it snows, yeah, unfortunately the event got cancelled last week. And the Reconnect conference, which I have to mention because there are supporting. We'll come back to that in a minute. Some interesting news. So those are events that exist in this local area. So have a look. The links are on my website. Why wouldn't they be? I don't get paid, unfortunately. So you can jump out to their websites, and I know Bournemouth 2600 is quite a popular one. And if you know any more, let me know so we can advertise it, because that's how we build our community, by all collaborating in. So some breaking news. This is breaking news. The Reconnect conference, one of our supporters here at dev.talk, they have their annual conference in they will have their annual conference in July next year. They had it in August this year. They have just told me today that they've secured the one and only, and I hope you all know this name, Kevin Henny, for their keynote next year. Does anybody know who Kevin Henny is? You know, people don't. Glad John does. Nobody else. I'm really surprised. He's
Watch him. Please watch him.
He's good. Absolutely brilliant. It's a huge boost for him to come and be keynote speaker at Reconnect next year. He's a world-renowned conference speaker, and I've seen him speak several times. And he's a very interesting and engaging speaker about all things in technology. He has co-authored and edited multiple technical books. Some Java programmers in the room may know the 97 things every Java programmer knows. There's a version of that which he's edited, and he's a huge name in the industry and the conference circuit. On his YouTube, he's got, hang on, I use it because I haven't used it at all. Oh, it doesn't show up. I've got a laser pointer, and it doesn't work on TV. Alright, let's go back to Amazon. So even on his YouTube channel, he's got 208 videos, which are from him doing his conferences around the world. That's where they're collected, and his talks are really thought-provoking. So his keynote will be titled "The Case for Technical Excellence," if I can say it. And like I say, it's this huge breaking news for him, and it's a massive thing for Reconnect, and I'm really excited to be there. And the good thing for you, because you all turned up today, they're going to give us a £20 discount, which I was blown away by. I've already got my ticket, so I think I'm number one, because this has just been announced. So there's a QR code there for you. You do need to open it up on the browser, not the Eventbrite app. Don't know why it doesn't work on the app. I will send you this link to if you don't get it right now. But 20 quid discount on the tickets.
What is the conference about?
Sharon, do you want to see me? Do you want to jump in there quickly?
Yes. So, Reconnect is our efforts to bring tech conferences back into Dorset, because we used to have Redevelop. Most of you probably remember that amazing conference. Used to bring people, thought leaders, and actually just something for the community by the community. So we want to do that, because there is nobody who's got an interest in collecting anybody's data. It's not a recruitment exercise or anything. It's just done by the tech community here. The tickets are really, really cheap as well and affordable. Like, you know, it wouldn't cost you hundreds of pounds just to show up there, because we want to make it accessible. We always have, it's a diverse by design. So we have a really fantastic lineup of speakers this year as well. We had hands-on workshops as well as keynote speakers and stuff, and we had a really good turnout, and it was fantastic. So we generally don't tie ourselves to a particular theme, because we want to keep it open, and we want to invite people from different type of industries and areas of tech, but the idea is to make it really super tech focused. And yeah, this time around we are not only focusing on hands-on stuff, but also around leadership. So leadership in tech world, and talks around that from some industry leaders and stuff. But just contacting Kevin, I want to say something, that this is one of those things where I completely stepped out of my comfort zone. I was a big fan of Kevin's, and I was connected to him via LinkedIn, which like thousands of people are connected to thousands of people. It doesn't really matter. So I sent him a message and I said, by the way, we have this teeny little conference in Dorset, but if you come in here, it would mean a lot to us, because it's it's an effort we're putting in. We're not huge. We don't have that much funding, so we can't give you any money. We can't pay for your stay, and we can't pay for your transport. And he was like, it will be my honor to come in, and I thought, this is fantastic. So he's not charging us a single penny. He just wants to be a part of the community, and he really wants to get behind the effort we are trying to do. So this is again something that the tech community is putting together, and we invite you to not only be there, but also if you've got something interesting to share. Like if you want to run a workshop, please do, because a lot of the times, we also want the people. I mean, we had Unix people last time, amazing traffic lights. They were very popular there, and we had people like with VR headsets and all of that. It's like some funky, cool stuff happening there. So please, just if not a participant, if you want to do some workshop or something like that, please do. Also, we invite people to do sponsorship. There are also like teeny mini sponsorship packages, which is like down to. I remember like Sharon and I last time we are now trying to expand the volunteers, the number of volunteers. If you fancy volunteering, please let us know, because last time I remember Sharon was hosting the panel, and I ran outside to put out the cakes for the team, because we were just between the two of us. We were trying to do as much as we can. So please, it will be great to see a lot of your faces there. Like I said, Mark's get a special discount because of his event. So this is just, we're not going to publish it anywhere else. So this is just exclusive to you guys. But I hope to see many of you there.
Yeah. And one thing I didn't mention was it's here. It's in Poole. It's at the Bournemouth College down in North Road. So it's a really close conference. And 20 quid discount is about 25% off, so I think, depending on the ticket prices. So that's a huge thing. So thank you, Stephen and Sharon, for allowing us and for allowing me to break the news, because that's cool. So I did this when I heard. Right. So before I let you all go, because we're really running out of time now, I just wanted to remind you all that you need to speak. This can only run if people talk. Otherwise, you will hear me speaking every single event, because I think it's useful. And I've only got so many texty talks I can do. But I got interested in one with Blue Sky in my head. But I think I might do it in January. So we need speakers. So we also provide support. That's me. I said we. I mean me. Provide support if you want to brainstorm ideas, if you want to run through your presentation, talk through it, then I'm willing to help you build a presentation or a workshop or whatever. We can make the agenda work. This is going to be a very flexible thing depending on people involved. We've had 3 today. I think we'll have 2 in January, and I think we might only have 1 in February, because they're willing to do a much longer talk. So that means your talks can be as short as 5 minutes and as long as 90 minutes. Which gives a lot of flexibility. So if you're interested and you just think you might be interested, please fill out that form is about 4 questions, and it just asks for your contact details so we can start a conversation. You're not signing up to actually speak. So please fill out that form if you're even slightly interested. I don't think we're a particularly scary bunch, are we? I think we can all talk to each other. So come and stand here rather than sit there. It's not a big difference. So it's the introvert. So I just want to say again, thank you to our supporters. Reconnect Conference, I've talked loads about them. But they help source this event space. They've given us a huge amount of moral support to build this. They've given us access to Eventbrite to do the ticketing system. Reconnect are a huge part, huge supporter of this, of dev.talk in general. I have to obviously thank Just Pick One UK. Please subscribe. Sorry, no, what is it? Like and subscribe. As
You know it.
YouTubers say. Have a look at my wife's YouTube channel because it's kind of cool. And there's some really interesting things coming up in December. But all the camera equipment, the microphones and things, you owe me a microphone, was all provided by Just Pick One UK. And most importantly of all, Institute of Directors have provided us this beautiful event space, some of the drinks and food, and have done a huge amount for us. So thank you very much for that. It's been really appreciated. And so a big round of applause for all of us. I just broke my present. Sorry.
Mark, can I ask a quick question whilst you're thinking about that?
Yeah.
Are you planning to keep it at like 50 attendees, or if you've got a bigger room, would you go up a bit more?
We'd go bigger, sure.
So it's just space.
It was space that dictated the 50. We sold probably about 75 tickets in total, with cancellations and people booking in from the waiting list. So there is a thirst for it here. I think we were up to 30. How many turned up?
There were 38 of us in the room.
38 of us in the room. So out of 45 tickets, I think that were actually allocated in the end. We had 38. So it's a good turnout anyway. I've lost the slides now, so that's fine. We did supporters. I'm sure there was something else on the end. But basically, thank you all for coming. I think Sharon wants to say something. I can see her sneaking. Sharon sneaking and talk to us while I figure out what's going on.
I just wanted to say it's incredible. There are a number of people in this room that I've met through various jobs, and to see people coming back together and doing things is really amazing. So, Mark, you really do deserve a big round. Can I also mention Dan and Simi and Heather and Andy, who have been supporting, because actually in their own different ways they are championing the thing that's driving me, which is about telling people just how brilliant the diversity of businesses you can work for in Dorset are. So can we thank them? And then I've got one more advert, and it's not because I'm wearing all of the lanyards here. We mentioned Dorset. They came to reconnect with a little bit of a proposition, which actually pointed out in the end, with a potential international keynote speaker, that there still isn't enough awareness of just what is here in Dorset and what's going on. However, we have a half-day conference focused on cyber, particularly AppSec, but wider aspects of cybersecurity at the Defence Battle Lab, which is sometimes in the back of Beyond, but it's a great place if you can park or you want to come on the train and use your barrel bike. Massive space, so we would love to fill it up, and the opportunity to mix with some of the government agencies that are part of my day job. So we'd love you to come. It's free because it's half-day conference. If you want us to sort out your lunch, you'll have to find an agreement of how you pay for that. But you'll be able to find it on socials and bits and pieces. By socials, I'm afraid I'm just sitting on LinkedIn at the moment because I haven't quite migrated to the places that we could look on. But we'd love to see you, and we would love to help Mark see me build the tech scene up again. Let's start with Bournemouth and then let's take over the whole of the Dorset and make it happen. Yeah, so thank you all for your time.
Good, I checked slides on my phone, I was. I will email that link to the discount.
Super exclusive discount.
Super exclusive, special, only people in the room. So if you tell anybody else about it, Sharon and team will come around with a sniper gun. Super secret.
There's a limited number. Yeah. So
yeah,
getting quick.
I've already got mine. Oh, straight. Great. So thank you all for coming. There's some refreshments and things over there, but it is 9 o'clock and we need to go. So thanks for all for coming now.
Thanks for watching this video of dev.talk. This was our first event in Bournemouth. If you'd like to join in, then please see our website for our call for speakers form. Thanks for watching.